The first computer, ENIAC, was as big as a room and comes with a memory less than a microwave. But things have changed now. This is Raspberry Pi, one of the cheapest and the smallest computer out there. Hi there, this is Minal once again and welcome to our TT Videocast. In today's video we will see 10 things you should know about Raspberry Pi. Raspberry from the fruit name and Pi from the Python language together makes Raspberry Pi, the popular credit card size computer, which is not only famous for its size and price but also works really well. You can buy this Pi for as low as $25 and almost use it as a fully functional computer by running several versions of Linux operating system. Few years back, Broadcom, a company that manufactures smartphone chipset, joined hands with University of Cambridge in UK, and together they co-found Raspberry Pi Foundation, a charitable organization dedicated for educational research. And after a few years, a Raspberry Pi was born. Though initially it was designed for kids to learn programming and for the citizens of third world countries to have access to fully functional computer. But later, when the geeks find out about this Raspberry Pi, they started doing all sort of cool projects with it, and the rest is history. On the first day of sale, more than 100,000 units of Pi was sold, and apparently more than 5 million units has been sold worldwide. But over the years, there has been several model released like B, B+, and the latest Raspberry Pi 2. And like everything else, it only gets better with each update. For instance, RAM has been increased from 256 MB to 1 GB, and similarly CPU has been bumped from 700 MHz of single core to 900 MHz quad core. And the number of USB ports, GPIO pin and other specs has also improved, overall giving a decent computing power to this latest version of Raspberry Pi. But it's not like that Raspberry Pi is the only kid in the town. There are other solid competitors as well, like Banana Pi, Orange Pi and BeagleBones. Though each one of them has their strength and weakness, nothing beats Pi on documentation and online resources. People just love Pi, and let's make it perfect for beginners. But it's not like that for $25 you get an actual computer. Out of the box, it's simply shipped with a single board computer, which means user will have to buy a separate monitor, keyboard or a case to make it work. So you may have to spend some extra bucks on it. For instance, if you are going to use it for the future project, you will probably need a case for it, right? Now for me, I don't like to spend $10 on a case for a $25 machine, so I DIY this plastic case myself using the template available online. Obviously, this is not the best looking case in the world, but totally usable. But it goes without saying that you can always buy a case online or 3D print yourself. For instance, few days back I got lucky on eBay and found this acrylic case for less than $2. Totally worth the price. Again, like I said, you do need an extra hardware to make it work. But how does it work? Well, to start with, it has a built-in RAM and a CPU in this Broadcom chipset. Now, why Broadcom? Well, if you remember, they were early investors in Raspberry Pi Foundation, so there is that. The second small chip around here is for controlling the USB and Ethernet interface. Now, since this single chip is controlling two things, it does create bottleneck if you use your Pi heavily. And this brings us to this 4 USB port here, which you can use to connect your mouse, keyboard or even a pen drive. Though if you are connecting an external hard drive, make sure you use a powered USB hub, as the power supply from this Pi will not be enough. Next we have this Ethernet jack, which you can use to connect your Pi to the internet. Now the best thing I like about the Ethernet is you never have to configure it for anything. Though if you want a Wi-Fi on this Pi, you can have it, but you will still need an extra wireless adapter for it. For power supply, Raspberry use a micro USB charger. Yes, the same thing that you use to charge your Android phone. And to connect your monitor, here is an HDMI port. But if you have an old TV, you can still use this RCA video out. And finally, there are 40 GPIO pin which you can use to connect your Pi to different sensors and Arduino. So that's all about hardware, right? But what about the operating system? Well, to load your operating system, this Pi uses this microSD card as a hard drive. If you are buying a memory card for your Pi, I suggest you go for the Class 10 one and for the storage more than 8 gigs. This small magic box supports quite few of Linux distro, and the most popular one is Raspbian. Yes, I know there is a Windows 10 for Raspberry Pi 2 as well, but it's not really an operating system like we are used to. It is basically meant for Internet of Things and for developers, so keep that aside. Now to get Raspbian on this Pi, simply go to this Noobs download page and download the disk image on your memory card. And then insert this card on your Pi and power on your system, connect the Pi to HDMI keyboard and mouse, and there we go. Just follow the on-screen instructions and within 10 to 20 minutes you will be kicking Raspbian on this Raspberry Pi. And from now on, your Raspberry Pi is like any other computer out there. Whenever you will turn it on, it will boot your OS directly and you can use it as a regular computer. But can you really use it as a regular computer? Well, even though it runs on Linux platform, you get a nice looking GUI with a web browser and open source LibreOffice. It even comes with a built-in popular games like Minecraft. But will it work as a regular computer? Well, as far I know, you cannot really use it as a desktop replacement. For instance, the web browser is nice, but opening more than 1 or 2 tabs will freeze it. Even to play a YouTube video, I have to do some tinkering with the terminal. And not to forget, it will never run any programs like Photoshop or any games. Now for me, I do most of my work online, but even after that, I cannot use it as my regular computer for more than 10 minutes. So no, an average user cannot really use this as a desktop replacement. But still, there are few hopes left for the kids or the senior citizens if they are working in a limited scope. So if this is a computer but cannot be used as a computer, then what it is good for? And what can I do with it? Well, most people who use a Raspberry Pi use it as a headless mode. For instance, I don't want to disturb my family by taking their television set every time I want to use my Pi. Neither do I want to go through the tedious process of connecting it with the keyboard and mouse. So to avoid such problems, you have two options here. First, you can SSH into your Pi. In simple words, it means remotely accessing your Pi via secure terminal. Just find your Raspberry Pi IP address from your router and then use a free tool called PuTTY. Here, all you need is the Raspberry Pi IP address and the username and password, and that's it. Now you will see a command line interface where you can do almost anything like you would normally do on your Pi. But let's say you want to get the screen as well. For such cases, the second method is useful. Simply install TightBNC server on Raspberry Pi and then use its client to log in to it. Again, all you need is the Raspberry Pi IP address and the username and password, which is by default Pi and Raspberry. Now if you don't understand what it is, simply take it as a TeamViewer. We install a software on Raspberry Pi which is sending us the screen in real time. So now that we know about the basic of Raspberry Pi, the question is, what can a people like you and me do with it? Well, Raspberry Pi is one of those things whose uses are limited by your own imagination. But still there are few things that a beginners can do with it. Number 1, learning. If you have a kids at home or even if you want to start learning the basic of programming, then it's a great device. Raspbian comes with a pre-installed program called Scratch, which is a fun programming language designed by MIT. And if you are a Minecraft fan, then there is that as well. Also, if you want to play around with Linux, then Raspberry Pi is the cheapest bet. Even if something goes wrong, it's still better than damaging your actual computer. Second, use your Pi as a network storage device. Say you have an external hard drive whose content you would like to access from every device on your network. So simply mount your external drive on the Raspberry Pi and install Samba on it. And from now on, you will be able to access your Raspberry Pi from all the computers and smartphones under the same network. Now me personally, I am using this setup for weeks and everything works flawlessly. Now some of you may ask, we can also do this easily with a computer, right? So why do we need a Raspberry Pi for that? Well, keeping a computer on uses a lot of power, but on the other hand, a Raspberry Pi uses only 10% of it while doing the same thing. Number third, turn your Raspberry Pi into an ultimate torrent machine. So this is what I mostly do with my Raspberry Pi. See, you want to download all the free versions of Linux distro from the torrents, which is around 20 GB. Now for an average internet connection, it might take entire night, right? But keeping your computer awake all night will use unnecessary power. So why not use a Pi instead? You can install the torrent client on like Deluge on your Raspberry Pi and then configure it so that you can control it from a remote computer. And that's it. I have left this system on for days and nights and it really works well. Just make sure Deluge is set to auto restart mode. So even if the Raspberry Pi blue boot due to power failure, your torrent will auto restart. Number 4. Home Media Server. Now I have a huge collection of movies, TVs and pictures that I would like to watch from my computer, TV or Android anytime, anywhere. So simply install XBMC server like Kodi on your Pi and then you can turn it into a portable media server. Now some of you may ask, why use a media server when I can stream all this content directly by sharing my hard drive on the network? And the reason is simple. You get the channel art, IMDb ratings, movies description, and even if you pause a video on one device, you can resume it from the other device just from the place you left. And this is what media servers does. Similarly, there are many things that you can do with this Pi, like turning this Raspberry Pi into plug and play VPN server or using it as a local Dropbox. So basically anything that can be done with Raspberry Pi can be done with a regular computer. But the advantage is you get an extremely small and low power machine which can do the work flawlessly. Well, this is all for now. I hope you find this video helpful. And if you want me to cover more of this Raspberry Pi tutorial like the use case that we have seen in the last, then let me know in the comment section below. And subscribe to this channel for more tech tips and tricks for better life. So this is Mrinal signing off and like always, thanks for watching.